Hello there, friends. Thanks for joining me for another bit of bonus material here in the junk drawer. I wanted to share with you one of the interesting things that I ran across when I was looking at material for the Coins and Engravers video, and it concerns this gentleman here. You will remember that this is Adolph Weinman. We talked about him in the Coins and Engravers video. He was the gentleman who engraved the Walking Liberty $50, which we see here. The thing that struck me for Mr. Weinman in particular is that every account that I read about him, and these are high-level summary accounts, not biographical, detailed kind of things, but all the accounts that I did read made a point to mention that Weinman was very particular about being recognized or appreciated as an architectural sculptor rather than a medalist or any other flavor of artistic expression. All of the accounts that I read made a note of this. One even mentioning that he, would become somewhat annoyed or agitated if he wasn't introduced as an architectural sculptor, for example. Now, I'm not an art critic or an art historian. I'm not conversant in this area at all. But it really struck me that he would feel so strongly about that, and it set my imagination to wondering why that might be. And it made me wonder whether, he was making a statement with his work about the relevance or validity of art that is intended to be used in the practical world, right? Parts of buildings and stuff like that. Compared and contrasted to the relevance of art, fine art, if you will, that you would find in museums. I had to wonder if Mr. Weinman had an opinion on that topic and made a point of underlining his self-identification as an architectural sculptor because he took a lot of pride in, bringing his highest standards of artistic expression to practical applications of art, like architecture. It did make me wonder about that. And even more so because of what I found in the Wikipedia page for Mr. Weinman. If you read the Wikipedia page for him, it references a very interesting photograph that caught my attention so much that I had to look it up as well and find it. I have a small version of it here for you to look at. Now, before I talk about this specifically, let me back up and say that one of the things that Weinman did in his career was a lot of the architectural sculpture for the Penn Station facility in New York that was built in 1910. And one of the things, or one of the groups of things that he did for Penn Station was 4 pairs of angels. I think they were used at entrances. They flanked entrances or something like that. I could be wrong about that. but there were 4 pairs of them, 8 in total. And each pair of angels included, the 2 angels were different from each other. There was one angel called Day, and there was one angel called Night. And he created 4 pairs of these for Penn Station. This picture shows one of Weinman's day angels in a landfill in the Meadowlands in New Jersey. Over a period of 3 years in the mid-1960s, Penn Station was dismantled, and this day angel, as well as, I believe, at some point anyway, perhaps all the angels, ended up in places like this, a landfill. It's broken. I don't know, it's a little bit jarring, I guess I could say, to see this in this way. And an absurd statement came to my mind when I saw this picture. And I know it's absurd. It's an extreme statement. It's silly. It's more of just a prompt for discussion than anything else. But when I saw this picture, I thought, you would never see the Mona Lisa in a landfill. And I know that's ridiculous, right? But it does generate perhaps a bit of discussion down the road that I was referencing earlier about the relevance or validity or the artistic merit, perhaps, of art that is intended for practical use in the public arena, right? Versus artwork that is of the fine art variety that is, I won't say created for, I mean, the Mona Lisa wasn't created to be hung in a museum. It was a commission of a wife of someone, right? It ended up in a museum, obviously, but it wasn't created for that purpose. But when you see an example of Weinman's work in this kind of a state, and you marry that up with how much apparent pride he took in being an architectural sculptor, I don't know, it's a lot of, there's a lot of food for thought here. Mr. Weinman passed away in the mid-50s, I believe, so he was never witness to the dismantling of Penn Station. He never saw his day angel in a landfill. It's not in a landfill anymore, of course. I believe I've read that 5 of the 8 angels have been recovered over the years and are, in states of display. But 3 of the angels are still missing. And it's an interesting thing to think about, right? Something that is such an interesting piece of artistic expression on the one hand, once it becomes part of a building, right? And then the building's not needed anymore. What are acceptable uses or outcomes for that artwork? Is it of no more relevance than any other wall or foundation stone or window frame? Any other part of that building that needs to be dismantled or destroyed? Is it no more important than those other elements? It's hard to say, I suppose. I know that every single bit of artistic work cannot be preserved for all time. But I guess there's the preservationist argument somewhere in there as well that comes up with old buildings and things like that. How much do we preserve versus how much do we recycle and modernize, right? I assume this argument goes on in cities, any city where there's still a decent collection of historical buildings still standing. Anyway, just a very interesting, this really perked up my imagination for a while when I found out about the day angel, married up with what I've read about Weinman and his pickiness, I suppose, about really wanting his legacy to be all about architectural sculpture, his identity. I'd be curious whether you had any thoughts on this topic. But this was the most interesting little tidbit that I came across as part of the Coins and Engravers video, so I wanted to spend a few minutes and share it with you. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks so much for being here, and we will see you next time, okay? All right.